We are interested in developing legislation in Jamaica and maybe regionally within CARICOM that would seek to provide some legal support to the indigenous cultural expressions of groups such as the Maroons, the Rastafari community, possibly also some of the Afrocentric traditional religions like Kumina and so on. It's a complex area, and I know JIPO has been mandated to do some of the groundwork towards formulating proposals that could then become a discussion paper and could be the source of stakeholder review and comment. So it's something that is going to take some time and the world as a whole hasn't really reached a conclusion on it. But it is definitely something that has to be pursued because it is not right that indigenous groups should have the manifestations of their own creative expression just used willy-nilly and freely and exploited without any benefit flowing to them.
Yes, you have to protect the traditional rights. How is it done, and how is it made in reality, utilizing the science and the institutions that we have?
Most people would have know about cannabis here in this room, so I don't have to go through much detail. But essentially, it is thought to have, it's the oldest plant in cultivation, one of, I should say, and it's believed to have been originated in Central Asia, somewhere in the Himalayas, and extending into China, and it has been recorded in use in China over 6,000 years. So it has really been used quite a bit, and it's used for many, many purposes, for fiber, food, oils, medicine, and of course, religious purposes. Next slide. In terms of some of the taxonomy and the biology, it belongs to the family Cannabinaceae, and it's one of two in the family. Humulus, hops is the other in that group. And taxonomy, there's still some discussion about that, how many species and what the species are. But it is regarded as a monospecific genus, meaning that there's only one genera. So Cannabis sativa, next slide. All right, so Cannabis sativa. So there are sativa subspecies like indica, subspecies sativa, subspecies rudialis. And some of the differences basically in terms of classification is based on the THC level, the height of the plant, the size of the sheet, how many palmates in the leaves, how wide it is. So there are some subtle differences, but overall it's more on the amount of CDB, how much THC that's present.
Questions? Yes?
Good afternoon. Thanks, Cannabis, for facilitating.
Can you please just identify yourself? So that
William Reynolds, Rastafari.
Yes.
I would like to thank again Cannabis for inviting us and facilitating something like this and this discussion. I think it is really needed. The question, I have two questions.
Yes.
Because based on what has been said, I guess then the question is going to be raised, how is it that we have a ganja fest, or not a ganja fest, a Rastafari Roots Fest? How does the ganja that is going to be featured at Roots Fest, is it transported from point A to point B? I know that through a lot of, I have contact with exhibitors that when we contacted the Ministry of Tourism to ask, the people who were at the ministry only were aware that the ministry was endorsing an event, but they didn't really know what was the process. And they kept sending us back to other agents, to other people who really didn't know what was happening. And I hope that will soon get fixed with the regulation, because there's a question, how does all of that move here? That's the first question. The second one is, in relation to all of your testing and everything, Israel, the United States, the Dutch in Europe have been doing so much research for, I think, at least Israel, to a certain extent, Israel for over 30 years, which is quite a significant time. those countries also doing regulations, standardizations, and these things? Can't we, just like we take from the IT industry now, we no longer, research and development departments in IT companies are the smallest now because there's so much collaboration between developers worldwide that we take pieces and we use it to develop new products, new things. Is that being done, or can something be done to speed up the process with those who have already been there? 30 years ahead, I think, is a significant time frame for research that I'm sure we can draw as well.
Yeah. On the first issue, for the Roots Fest arrangements, the laws, as amended, allows the Minister of Justice to grant those authorizations and subject to conditions. And conditions were worked out with the consultation with the Commission of Police for authorized for a number of authorized persons to be able to go and collect and transport up to certain quantities for the purposes of the event. Well, no, the arrangements are that those authorized persons should go and collect from the source.
About other countries, the USA hasn't been allowed to do research with cannabis other than cannabis provided by the DEA. And their cannabis is so bad, no one can do research. And in the UK, for instance, there are only 4 institutions which have safes strong enough for cannabis to be stored in, so that the universities can do research. So again, that limits the number. There are all these artificial limits.
But I think Jamaica, because of the range of cannabis that's grown in Jamaica, must be well positioned to do very interesting research, because the raw material available to our researchers would be almost unique. I would have thought that sets us that we must have tremendous advantages.
Yes, just to add in terms of it, we look at the genetic diversity, just in the West, Westmoreland, St. Louis, and for that percentage, those that are genetically diverse and different from each other, percentage is about 50%. So there's a good pool of genes that we could actually look at to continue doing research, which is really
Collaborations possibly between for example, they signed an MOU with Hebrew University.
Yes. There are some collaborations in terms of what you are doing in terms of this work. Yes, there are. So it's not just you alone, so there are other institutions that work.
About U.S. research, Dr. Brown put it very well. In the United States, it's still federally illegal. And most of these studies in the work is done at university. And most of the universities get a percentage of their funding from the federal government, which means by default, they can't do something that's federally illegal. Therefore, the universities that are doing the studies can't study it because they would lose their funding from the federal government. So it's a catch-22. And you also have to look at the big pharmaceutical companies in the United States that also are afraid of anti-banking laws. And actually, what Dr. Brown was referring to is what they call RICO laws, which are racketeering laws that come from illegal operations. So those operations are all considered federally illegal, which means that research is not being done. It's not being done by the pharmaceutical companies, it's not being done by the universities, so those things aren't happening, which actually, to me, puts Jamaica in a very unique position, much like Canada. Canada, Israel, and Jamaica really are the countries that have the opportunity to do advanced research that nobody else has done. And that puts this country in a leadership position there, and I think that's very important.
Excellent. Thank you, Scott.
I just wanted to say, over the last 10 years, the Bentley Foundation has collaborated in research with King's College, but you have to find universities willing to do it. And then the Bentley Foundation has to find the funding to get the research doing. So there's small neuroscientific research, but now I'm just planning one at NYU. using CBD to look into addiction of alcohol, nicotine, cocaine, and new psychoactive cannabinoids. And so the bigger universities are beginning to be interested because they get good papers out of it. But they charge so much. I mean, I get in very cheaply because I get the whole thing kind of behind the doors. But if you go through the official doorways, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they can be.
Are there any more questions? If there are no more questions, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to thank you for being part of this historic moment.